Welcome everybody to Checkmate with Vintage Metal Designs. My name is Gregg and I am the host, and this is our very first podcast coming to you from the laboratory, which is the garage where it all started. I want to welcome a very, very close friend, Erik, to the show.
How you doing, bud?
Good to have you here, bro.
Congrats.
Pretty crazy that we're sitting here in the garage in front of a chessboard about to have some good conversation.
25 years later.
Wow.
Yeah, 26 years later. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a minute, man. Congrats on the new journey, and super excited and proud of you, man.
You are definitely one of the few, again, 25, 26 years that has been with me. We've been with each other, for this ride post-college, so you've seen every crazy idea I've thrown your way.
Absolutely.
You've listened, you've assisted in navigating the seas, and, I can't thank you enough. You've been an amazing friend for a long time, and I appreciate it.
Feelings mutual, man. So
when I decided to start kicking the idea of this podcast around, a lot of the smart people in my corner were just pushing podcast, do it. And, both of us were at this stage in our life where we're doing things that are kind of outside the box, and just things that we might have never even thought of, 10 years, 20 years ago.
That's for sure.
So yeah, it's just, it's exciting. There's a number of guys in our circle, in our mid-40s, that are now taking on projects and things that, again, are just so far outside of, the comfort zone.
Yeah, and I think that, is as we add people to our group and, see what that looks like, and, going through new experiences and learning lessons as to what we do, we continuously grow in, different areas that we can support all levels of success, which is tremendous.
Exciting what the future holds.
For sure.
Let's touch upon a little bit about the past. I know you are definitely local to the area. Tell me a little bit about, where you grew up and, your childhood up until we crossed paths in college. Yeah,
so born in Brooklyn, moved to New Jersey when I was 8 years old with the family. My parents still live in the same house in Jackson since we moved. So that's, 30 plus years now at this point. And, obviously we went to Delaware together. That's where we met through one of our good old buddies. Shout out to Scott Tillman.
Tailpiper.
And, and then, transitioned to, after school, I think we lost touch a little bit. And then we re-engaged. I don't know if you remember the day, but I remember it pretty close when we ran into each other at Bar A one night and transitioned that to, I think you were in the mortgage business for a little bit. And, I've been doing the same thing since I got out of school, which is, full service financial planning for, better part of 20 plus years. 24 now.
That's pretty amazing. There's so many people have tried so many different things, post-college, just in terms of figuring out what they wanted to do, what their passion was, what really, got them going.
Right. And
quite a few people in my inner circle, have stuck with, the main focus coming out of college. Some of them went to law school, a lot of financial guys, a bunch in real estate, but a lot of them have really stuck to, mastering that craft and really putting the time and effort to, building something. And, fresh out of college, a lot of times people want instant gratification. They want instant success. They think it's gonna just kind of happen overnight, but here you are almost 25 years later in the financial services insurance space. Tell me a little bit about that. What attracted you to that space, and, kind of just share with us some of that.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. The biggest things were the fact that every day is different, right? Whether it be individual or business that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis is a different puzzle to kind of put together, right? And to help support and, grow with and help maintain lifestyle and goals and where they want to accomplish, in their future, or how they want to leave, the legacy and tell the story the way they want to tell it. And, that was, I guess, a passion for me to see, people attempt to be successful and support that.
Now, saying that, like, each day is different. Each day is like a different puzzle.
It is.
I find that a lot of the high-level thinkers that I converse with on a regular basis will agree with you and say the same thing. I love those puzzles. I love putting the hardest, most difficult, important pieces to the puzzle in place as early in the process as possible, because then filling in the rest seems to be easier.
Yeah, I would agree. And, as the approach comes, and even not necessarily just financial planning, but everywhere in life, the more facts you have, the easier it is to give advice and support what it is, whether it be a business or individuals attempting to accomplish. And, not to try and make it as easy or downplay it, because, there's difficult situations every day, but at the end of the day, the goal is, if you want to attempt to be successful and you're willing to do the work and, put in the grind, I think anything's possible, which is a great, mindset to try and have and where you want to go with it. And that's why I think every day I continue to bring the passion on the financial planning and insurance side.
So touching upon like the mindset, you see so much about needing to have that strong mindset. It's out there everywhere, online, social media. With that being said, when you wake up in the morning really excited, there's no better feeling in the world. And that excitement could be just being grateful that you've woken up and now you could start thinking about tackling your day, or you've already done that the night before and now it's go, go, go. So for me, waking up in that morning with a fresh attitude, with a feeling of gratitude, I'm here, now we can go ahead and tackle the day. Now the puzzle can start to be put together. Like, waking up for me with that positive mindset, eager to start my day, it almost goes back to like going to bed.
Sure.
It's what is going through the mind before falling asleep. And are you thinking about what's going to stress you out and keep you up? Or are you going to think about the positive things that are going to happen? Are you going to be manifesting, your day?
Absolutely.
You've got an extremely crazy schedule. You've shared it with me as we've tried to coordinate some things. And
absolutely.
It's like, Gregg, I'm in the car for 4 hours and I've got 15 calls and a couple of meetings on my schedule. And it's like, all right, for me, I can go through all 15 of them, in my head, and kind of just do a dry run with the ideal outcome, and then the other outcomes I would be okay with. You're an extremely passionate guy. I know that we're really on the same level there. So just kind of touch upon like the importance of that passion.
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, in regards to where I'm at and understanding how to help support building teams that win, right? And, we played soccer together in college and intramurals, and, helped win 14 intramural titles between a bunch of different sports: basketball, soccer, volleyball, softball. The mindset and goal is, competing, but also having the right people around you. And, on the financial planning side, I would put our team up against anybody. Right. And then some of the other businesses that, kind of dabbled in and transitioned to now at this point of, my career, and seeing, business day to day and how it's done. And the goal is to get the best people around you that are going to make you better and challenge you every day. And that, to me, is what, wakes me up, gets me to the gym, and, gets you up and at 'em early to attack the day.
Yeah. Coming back to Vintage Metal Designs, when I had this idea of building cool stuff like this, I had no idea how to build a brand related to this. I've had other ventures and careers that are nothing like art. And
it's one of a kind for sure, man.
So fortunately, I was introduced to some really, really smart guys that saw the vision, that believed in the vision, that saw the value and said, listen, you need to brand it in this fashion.
Right.
And if you follow our ideas and we do everything by this playbook, you know, the outcome is going to be phenomenal. And they were right, like so right. And I learned, I've been really good at building teams, you know, and very much like you. We build bridges every day, you know, and it's something that we love to do, you know, especially when there's a very smart, high-level person that's coming into the group, you know, and now our team has an opportunity to grow and add capabilities that we don't necessarily have today.
Absolutely.
Which makes you more capable and powerful, me as well. And the importance of that team, like the most successful companies out there, entrepreneurs in the world today, tell you all the same thing, the Steve Jobs, the Elon Musk, like the team is everything. But there's those who could put those people in place, but not successfully manage and integrate and work with them on a day-to-day and inspire them. So you're the type of guy that has inspired me and many, many, many others, I'm sure.
Feel the same way.
So with that being said, touch upon team leader and some of those qualities that will set that team leader so far apart from the others to where that leader with the right team, their capabilities are on a whole nother level. We could talk about, you know, the elite and then greatness. Talk to me.
I think, you know, for many of the businesses that I've been involved in, for me personally, like I felt I needed to do the work first from the ground up, right? And I'm continuously doing that right now with the two other ventures that I'm directly involved in. So I can learn, I can understand it, I can articulate it, I can translate the message to whoever is going to transition into that role to help support and be as successful as possible and really hone in on the personalization and understanding what it takes for that job to take it to the next level, right? And that's the same thing we've done on the financial planning side. There's certain things I don't do anymore because I genuinely feel that, you know, and not that I'm above it because I'll do it if I have to, but transitioning that to what are the things that are going to help drive the bottom line, be more personable in the community, understand, give back, you know, give the best I can for the right value of, you know, seeing what that looks like from outside looking in. And I think, you know, there's selflessness on that to be able to support that, you know, in every aspect from, you know, whether it be for the basketball team right now that, you know, we've transitioned to of whether it be doing laundry or, you know, running a concession stand or merch or anything like that to putting up posters and now transitioning to building out a team and negotiating contracts. Right? So it really just kind of depends on what it looks like, but it helps us really engage and understand what the role looks like and where we potentially can take it to another level.
So many of the really successful business owners, you know, have been in the trenches. You know, I through my scrap metal business, you know, I know a lot of owners of large contracting companies. And some of those owners have got engineering degrees and worked in the field because it was a family-owned business. So, you know, from a technical standpoint, they're hands-on. From a practical standpoint, they're on another level. You know, because you've got engineers who sit in an office who can look at a computer screen, but when you're actually on the site and you've got to deal with structural issues and having to come up with creative solutions that aren't going to take up a lot of time and cost extra money and think on your feet.
Yeah.
Like those who have gone through that process and have stacked the bricks and learned all the things that they didn't necessarily want to learn at first, but were so important in understanding and being able to, you know, build on that later on down the road. You've done that with the basketball team.
Yeah, I mean, and we're, you know, still in the infancy stages, and, you know, the basketball team of, you know, where we're at, which in the second season, we still have a lot to learn. And, you know, it's a learning curve every day, and, you know, it's excited to, you know, to learn new things and try and figure out how to correct them, perfect them, and, you know, make them look, you know, as good as possible to support, you know, the organization, you know, and we went from 0 employees on that to 50 employees overnight.
Right. I really like talking to you on a almost like weekly basis, because that gives us enough time to come up with a handful of new crazy things, ideas, or concepts, ancillary components to things or projects we're working on, to where usually it's me just throwing, oh my gosh, this happened, this happened, this happened. But you do the same exact thing. So it's refreshing when I'm able to call and we could have like a little ping pong session. And it's like, Erik, I got this going on. What do you think?
Well, I also like it, the fact that, I think we both have similar passions in regards to business. And I've seen you on the scrap metal side, obviously, from the beginning, with G and Dr. Copper and, all those things. The very beginning. That's right.
So we got to bust this out.
That's right. Bringing it back,
this may be one of the very few that are left. I don't know.
I don't even know where mine is.
We're going to have to put this out there to the world. So this is, I believe, from what I was told, this is the original Dr. Copper scrap metal t-shirt. And I believe this was Gio's, and he had given it to me a long, long time ago. And so my mother is probably going to be a little pissed at me for showing this, but I'm sorry, Ma.
Yeah, so, seeing you from the beginning and what that looks like, and, realizing your passion when you get involved in something, and I think that's why we relate pretty well to each other, is, we're either all in or we're out. And I think that's a very, it's a very, appreciative and commendable, trait in regards to business on a day-to-day, because you want to find the right ways to bring the right value for the customer, the client, the service, whatever it looks like, to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do to provide, value. And that's tremendous, man.
Right. So let's touch upon that obsession word, right? Because you really need to be obsessed. Like, we've used the word passionate. But again, like I said, there's different levels of success.
Sure.
And if you're shooting for greatness, whatever that might look like to you.
Everyone's different. Yep.
There has to be a high level of obsession. I can tell you firsthand, when it came to art and design, I've been obsessed, and I obsessed the first 6 months. It was painful, the obsession. And sacrifice comes along with obsession, which people may not really talk about, but if you set a goal and you say to yourself, this is what I want, or this is what I'm going to get by working and doing all of these measures, well, guess what? It's going to cost you something. What's that cost? For me, I've got 2 young boys at home.
Right.
So for me,
they're not that young anymore. Yeah.
14, 12, they're getting high school bound. And, I've got a full-time wife,
right.
A full-time wife at home who works in the city. She's a executive at a company, and she commutes into the city numerous times a week. And my obsession had to be, really managed at nighttime, because at that point in time, I was doing a lot of copper work, the timing was amazing, because I was building toward this dream, this vision that required financing inventory, building things. It was just spend, spend, spend. So luckily, I didn't have really much of any financial pressure during those initial 6 months when I was completely obsessed, which allowed me to think very freely and just maneuver in such a way to where I was able to get potentially years worth of work accomplished in months worth of time. The sacrifice. Like, what are some of the sacrifices that you've had to make, over these years in order to be what I would call successful today, and now in multiple ventures that are going to put you on a whole nother level?
Yeah, I mean, in the first few years of building the business, right, there's not a lot of weekend downtime to hang out and, and enjoy, friends and family, and, you're grinding all day, every day. Yeah.
40,000 miles a year?
Yeah, 40,000 a year, all over basically the country. more or less, mostly East Coast driven, and nonstop, obsessed with seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but realizing it was there. And then, being able to transition that to, financial stability to then be able to breathe and be able to support, the lifestyle that you want, is I think important for seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and now being able to, have more of a clearer picture on understanding the things you want versus you need. Right. And, similar thing, like, yeah, I mean, you need, and I know a lot of people say balance is balance, but at the end of the day, it's, I think, being able to have the right people around, like we talked about, and understanding, what things actually drive happiness. And it's not necessarily all about the money, right? It's not necessarily all, like, I'm sure, and I could bet this, that when you place a piece in someone's house, business, whatever it looks like, regardless of how much, you make on it or what it costs, like, that's your happy place to support, hey, my art, people are seeing every day or in someone's home that they're able to enjoy, and we brought this to life for them. Like, to me, that's priceless.
That emotional attachment is priceless.
Right. And that's why, on the financial planning side, I just like working with good people. I don't care if they're worth $5 or $5 billion, and
I attribute that mentality to a lot of the success is that, a lot of people look at that number and just start putting together a plan based upon, is they worth 2 million, 20 million, 200 million,
right,
as opposed to, let me find out a little bit about this person and see where I might be able to be really helpful.
Yeah. And I think understanding that and the thought process of giving, versus what it's going to do for you in the long term, right? Like, I know you just did something with CHOP, and, the basketball team is involved in 15 nonprofits. Like, to us, that's the best feeling in the world, to see these nonprofits come and enjoy a game at St. Rose for the breaks, and, seeing what that looks like, and now transitioning to the potential distillery. And, by the way, the piece you made for the distillery is tremendous.
Yep. I can't wait for it to be shown.
I know, me neither. That's
one of the cool things about like what I'm doing here is I put together a really, really cool piece for these guys at the distillery, and I can't show it to anybody. I was able to take a couple of pictures and share it with my team, and that was like it. And now we're not too far off from seeing it.
A couple months, hopefully, but yeah.
It's in its new home.
Yeah, looking forward to that for sure.
So right off the top of your head, like, give me a good client story. So you get brought into these businesses to evaluate financial, insurance, whatever it may be, and you come into this business and you're like, you spend some time, you get to know them, you get to know the business, and what are some of the biggest mistakes that are more common in some of these businesses?
I think it's, and my experience in business in and of itself, right? Majority of them are not going to just automatically be in the green right away, right? And understanding what that 2, 3, 4, 5 year plan looks like versus tomorrow, right? And kind of bridging out and understanding, what the long-term picture looks like, and then breaking it down. So from a 90-day plan to a 1-year plan to a 3-year plan to a 5-year plan, if you believe and you stay the course and you put the work in, all those things are, obtainable. And I think a lot of people, when they're starting new businesses, struggle to really see that other than just having an idea, and I think that is something that, we try to help support and understand, and, we have the right infrastructure in place with referral sources that we try and give you the best advice possible based on what the goals and what you're trying to accomplish are.
Looking back, what was one of the best pieces of advice that a mentor, an older person gave you, coming out of college when you were in the early stages of your career, in the financial space? Best piece of advice?
Do the work.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. I worked for two guys, great guys, Al and Jan in Delaware. It was my first internship. Great dudes.
I remember that internship.
Great dudes at RBC Dan Rauscher and then Prudential. And, you know, they just said, Erik, you do the work. It's going to pay off, regardless of what industry, what it looks like. And I mean, I was cold calling, you know, 1,000, 1,200 numbers a day for 3 summers straight, getting hung up on left and right, phone books, looking at the best zip codes in the country. And, you know, I helped get them some clients, you know, back then, which was great, but, you know, and which was fun that they took us out for, you know, some drinks at Klondike Kate's.
Oh my gosh. I got a Klondike Kate hat over there somewhere.
Do you?
I did.
I was there not too long ago with the nephews, which was fun. But yeah, just, you know, if you do the work and you have the right mindset, good things will come.
So that's the one piece of advice that Erik can fire off right off the hip here. And he's the same person who put in the time, put in the grind, 1,200 cold calls, hung up on. I was in the mortgage business.
1180.
Tuesday and Thursday nights were late nights. We'd stay on the phones from like 5:30 to 9:30, and I wouldn't make 1,000 calls, but I'd get hung up on all the time. But that's when rates were at all-time lows in like September of '02, and you were able to get, you know, a couple of loans a week, you know, from those cold calls,
Right.
which was like fishing with dynamite. For a kid like me out of college, it was a dream come true. Going back to, like, let's just say the youth real quick, you know, take the words of advice from a couple of people who have put in the work to get where we are today. Like, the early years, you got to put in your time. Like, just put in your time. Erik lived at home with his parents for years.
Yeah. Till 29. Yeah.
Till 29 to save.
Yeah.
And stockpile.
Yeah.
So I can speak for myself. You know, both my mom and dad, thankfully they're still around, and they've played such an important role in my life, in my brother's lives, and, you know, really, really grateful to have had them present throughout the childhood, and just a really, really awesome home. I've met your parents a handful of times, a dozen over the years at all these different events. You know, how important of a role did they play in your life?
I don't even think words could describe it. It's a tremendous support system. It's, you know, they've become, you know, my best friends, which is tremendous. And, you know, they're at every breaks game, they're at every distillery thing, they're at every event for any business we're doing. So, you know, it's pretty awesome, man. They're amazing people.
Yeah, I got goosebumps.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for bringing them up there.
Yeah, I mean, for them to see, you know, the growth, and it's not just, it's your brother as well.
For sure.
I've known your brother for quite some time. We probably first met, was when I was living in Florida, and then again, like right after I moved back in 08, 09, AC, New Year's. But yeah, and like we were just talking or doing some filming over at the distillery, which you can get into talking more and more about if you'd like. And I just remember we were filming that one day, and Jared was so uncomfortable and nervous about the filming, and then we just kept pushing him and like, Jared, get on camera. And then he got on camera and he started just walking around and just talking and flowing, and he went from being, you know, scared, which is not I'm uncomfortable and scared doing some of this stuff all the time, but I'm at the stage in my life where I'm comfortable with who I am. I know what I want to do, and in the event I get hung up on, or somebody shuts a door in my face or laughs at me, I could care less. On to the next. And
you know, it's been an interesting dynamic with working with your brother, you know, my brother, for the first time on a project for the last 3 years, and, you know, learning how we both choose to do business and work, and what works and what doesn't, and, you know, having that brother
Right.
dynamic is always a challenge, and growing. And I think both of us have realized, and I know a lot of business owners say this on a regular basis, but it's true, is getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Right. And at the end of the day, we don't know what the future holds and where it's going. And, we're making mistakes along the way every day, but, trying to improve and correct those, to grow and position onto the next phase of whatever we're doing.
I think about that uncomfortable feeling, and I spent a lot of time manifesting and just creating this vision and getting so granular with the details of the where, the when, the speeches, what shoes am I wearing, all of those things. And I really wanted to create this vision that put me at such a high level of discomfort, like off the charts.
Right.
In envisioning, you know that situation that you're walking into where you've got knots in your stomach, you're sweating, and you are just like, you're scared, and in my mind, in my delusional 6-month hiatus, I painted this wild vision, and now it's all I think about. Going back to the passion, the obsession. We're sitting here talking about planning the next, 50 or 75 years of builds, custom one-off builds for vintage metal designs. Like, I'm figuring out creating this playbook so that the brand could continue, for the next 100 years with release dates, which, again, saying that to someone, their initial reaction is going to be, Gregg, what are you talking about? You're crazy. And then I could sit there and talk to someone like you or any one of those people in my team, at the table that can think that way and say, wow, it's brilliant.
Yeah. And it's, I think I transition it to not necessarily being scared anymore, but it's almost like excitement to the point of where it's like, okay, like, it's an adrenaline, it's whatever that looks like, of getting me uncomfortable to try and, figure out the puzzle, going back to that, and seeing what it looks like and where we want to build on whatever it is, right? Just because you have an idea, no one sometimes even realizes the little granular details and, all the things that go into, even just making one piece in a chessboard.
Right. One more question for you. Let's say you got 3 people, nice dinner, wherever you want. They could be alive or dead. Who are your 3?
It would be Shaq and my 2 nephews.
Okay, tell me why. Why Shaq?
Shaq has, to me, his on the court dominance. I'm a huge basketball fan, as you know, and his personality combination with what he does in business is someone I would love to pick his brain, learn from, understand his mentality, and also joke around with. That's kind of fun. And my 2 nephews are 2 of the most amazing, young kids that I enjoy hanging around every day. They keep me young,
right?
And they're jokesters too. And I would love to hang out with Shaq and them and see where that goes. Eating some sushi.
Some sushi with Shaq. That would be.
I know he loves his barbecue chicken, so maybe we transition to that. But what about you?
I love listening to Shaq. And I've heard, tons of his interviews and stuff going back to, the earlier days of Shaq, where he would be sitting in on meetings with, major sponsors and stuff like that. And the major sponsor would be looking at his team and looking at his manager, his finance guy, and he'd say, why aren't you looking at me?
Right.
I make the decisions. You need to sell me.
Right.
And it wasn't as if Shaq was a dummy at that time and didn't know business.
Right.
Didn't know his value and what he brought to the table.
I mean, look at the transition from Orlando to LA.
And he's just so real. And
right.
He's such a giving, kind.
Has the largest purchase in Walmart history for other people. Like
really?
It's pretty awesome, man.
And, his upbringing, military dad.
Jersey guy.
Right. I'd love to have a conversation with Elon.
Okay.
He is such an interesting character. I mean, what he's been able to accomplish outside of politics. This is not the forum for politics, just strictly the way his mind works.
Loves his cheeseburgers.
Loves his cheeseburgers and loves his team.
Yeah.
You know, how people can say bad things about what he's done, from, you know, Tesla to SpaceX.
Most
all
incredible out of the box thinker, man.
And, you know, he doesn't have the degrees in a lot of the stuff that he's doing.
Right.
You know, but he's taught himself. He's read. He's surrounded himself with smarter people.
Right.
And he's not afraid to, you know, sit and converse and be told that's a bad idea.
Right.
And this is why. You know, part of that team, right, is going to them with that idea and knowing that you might not get the answer that you're looking for, but you're going to them because you're valuing
absolutely
the feedback that you're going to get, because you might be missing something.
Right.
And there's nothing better than coming up with that idea, spending a little bit of time fine-tuning it, and then going to your people and getting it picked apart.
I completely agree.
And then when you get, like, for me, you know, my wife, Lauren, she's a rock star. And
she is.
Brilliant. And she's just an unbelievable springboard. And she's tough, really, really tough. And
she tells it how it is, for sure.
Correct. Kind of like how we are.
Yeah.
So when I'm able to throw an idea her way and I get her blessing, you know, that's a good feeling. But at the same time, when she says, Gregg, horrible idea. You're trying to do this, you're trying to do that. You just stay in your lane. You're trying to do too much. And then I take that same idea that she just destroyed and I share it with a few people. And they're like, I'll buy one. I'll buy one. That's a brilliant idea. You know, so just sometimes it may not be what you want to hear, but you still want to hear it.
And I mean, different perspectives are important to understand, you know, where you actually want to go, for sure.
All right, last few minutes here. Let's segue into the distillery, which has been a project that's been going on now. It's been in the works for like 3 years.
We're coming up on 3 years, yeah.
And from what I just heard a few minutes ago, sheetrock could be going up very soon.
We're still in construction. Sheetrock's going up. We've just announced our private members lounge, you know, kind of like pre-sale and, you know, kind of getting involved in that currently. We are going to start to have a few different, you know, exclusive invites to have some people maybe do some walkthroughs and see what's going on there over the next few weeks.
Touch upon the private lounge a little bit more. You said it was going to be member only.
Yes, members only tasting room. It'll be upstairs in the distillery. We'll have a couple golf simulators in it, which will be pretty cool. So part of your membership, you get a couple hours on the golf simulators. You'll be involved in...
How many members?
We're capping it at somewhere in the range between 70 and 85.
That's it.
That's it. So it's, like I said, it's pretty exclusive, you know, and within 30 miles of the distillery, there's about over 2 million people.
Wow.
So, you know, we want to make it comfortable. Right. It's not necessarily stuffy, but also an opportunity to come hang out, relax, enjoy, do some networking. You know, right. Obviously there'll be a bunch of TVs up there. We're partnering right now with a bunch of the local restaurants and bars in regards to distribution of our products and opportunity to be able to bring food in, because obviously in New Jersey you can't serve food right. With owning a distillery. So that is in the works currently, and we got some, you know, great partnerships aligned on that. I think that will help support some of that. And then we'll hopefully be able to do some outside events to grow the business and, you know, hopefully and have people enjoy cool, fun drinks, man. That's really what it's all about.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've been along for the ride years and years with planning and zoning, and then finally getting the green light and seeing the place come to life. I've been in the site, I've seen the progress, and I'm excited to get out there next week and see some sheetrock going up. It's getting closer.
Yeah, it's finally starting to become, you know, real.
Right.
And I think, you know, the challenge was over the last couple of years is you didn't see that vision of, you know, what it looked like, just kind of, you know, pounding the pavement of trying to keep the thought and the dream afloat. and now transitioning it to year 3. The products that we have developed are now in north of 110 locations around mostly Ocean Monmouth County, between our bourbon and vodka teas, but transitioning that to being able to make our own cool, fun drinks is really what it's all about for us. So we'll be finalizing flavor profiling on some gin, some rums, some vodka, and then transition that to hopefully a ridiculous drink menu that people come hang out, watch some TV, play some board games, sit by the fireplace, downstairs, maybe do some corporate events.
I was just about to touch upon that. That's going to be really exciting for the local businesses.
Yeah, I think so. I think to be able to have another place to be able to go and, have some space, downstairs will be somewhere around 100 people. Upstairs on average will be somewhere in the range of 70 to 80 on a regular basis. That's why we're trying to minimize upstairs traffic,
Right.
to be able to support, that and kind of make it more of like a place that people want to come hang out.
So I would suggest to anybody in the local area that's interested in joining this amazing distillery's private club to definitely inquire sooner than later. 70 or 80 spots, that's going to go pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think we're already, the first day we announced it, we had north of 200 people inquire.
Oh, wow.
And I think there's already, somewhere in the range of like 20 members that have basically locked in. So we're, it's becoming, space is becoming limited at this point already, which is great, which is a good problem, but
great problem to have.
Again, we want people in there that want to enjoy it, and hopefully expand their mindset of, bringing value in regards to hanging out, enjoying it, and, giving us new ideas to hopefully make it better as we progress.
And even for those who, might not be able to get in as one of those members, the corporate events, you'll be able to host any type of corporate event and have it in an awesome environment, bring in your employees, your clients, potential clients, and just put on a really, really awesome event.
We're looking forward to that for sure.
That's awesome. Well, that's going to wrap it up, everybody. I want to thank Erik Gaines for being our first guest here.
Thanks for having me, man. I feel honored, man. Appreciate it.
Metal Designs. It was serendipitous to make sure that this was done with my boy E. And stay tuned. Not really sure when we'll get this chopped and cut up and put out there into the meta, but I'm excited for everybody to see our first show. Catch you next time.
Looking forward to it. Cheers, buddy.
Love you, bro.
Thanks for everything.